This is my first round of labeling tubes. Yep, so each tube is labeled with a little code I came up with for the excavation or the archaeological site and grave number. I have it on the top and on the side. So all my tubes for the 2 archaeological sites in Poland I'm working with. And as this process goes on, I'm going to spend a lot more time labeling a lot more tubes. But my next step is actually to bleach the teeth, to clean them before I actually start drilling into them. Okay, first thing you want to do in the drilling room when you get in, if you're drilling ancient material, suit up in a Tyvek suit, grab some gloves and other personal protective equipment, put all of that on, and then decontaminate your gloves with either bleach or DNA away. And then you are good to start setting up your samples and your tools. So today I am drilling into my collection of teeth from Gacz over in Poland. This tube here has my first sample from my first tooth that I decided to drill, and I have to weigh it to make sure that I have the target weight of bone powder in that tube, which is 50 milligrams. I'm a little above that, which is fine. But this is exciting because it means I can move on, and I'm actually going to keep drilling into the same tooth for a second sample. And yep, then I will have 2 samples from 1 tooth for DNA extractions. There are my first 2 samples, drilled bone powder drilled out of my first tooth from Gacz over in Poland. I'm going to put these in the fridge here in our drilling room and clean up. And then tomorrow I'm going to come back for tooth number 2. That is the UV light for the drilling room. So once I am all cleaned up, packed up, and ready to leave, I'm going to turn on the UV light and it will start beeping. It'll give me about 10 seconds to leave the room before it turns on. And we use a UV light in the drilling room in the ancient DNA labs because the UV light will actually destroy any unwanted DNA that we might have hanging out on all the surfaces in here, and that will help prevent contamination of our samples that we're working on in here. Basically, the UV light takes the strands of DNA and bunches them all up into this hideous, nasty tangle thing, very much like yarn barf. This is DNA Away. It's one of the things that I use to decontaminate both my gloves and all of my tools, as well as the surfaces on which I work, so like this hood in here. And this bottle's in a bag because as I was wrestling it out of the plastic packaging, I found that there's a crack in the bottom of the bottle and it was leaking all over the place. So I needed to bag it up. But I did feel very decontaminated. Today I am back to bleaching some teeth, so I picked out 2 more teeth to clean up with bleach, and the bleach and rinsing with water will clean the outer surface of the tooth. Getting my weigh boats ready. Yep, and I will have to bleach them and leave them to dry overnight before I can drill into them for bone powder for DNA extractions. These are my bleaching instructions. So when it refers to a weigh boat, this is what that is. So what happens is I label it with the tooth or individual number and my name on the other side so that everyone knows that those are the samples I'm working with. The tooth sits in this little weigh boat and I fill that with bleach and let it sit for a couple minutes. Taco for bleach dumping means I fold it into a little taco to help all of the liquid come out, and then I rinse it with water twice, doing kind of the same thing. Submerge it in water, let it sit, dump out the water, do it all again. And then at the end, the tooth stays in this little weigh boat to dry overnight until I can come back to drill into the tooth for bone powder. And the bone powder, I drill the tooth into the tooth over the weigh boat so all the powder falls into the boat, and then I can safely and slowly dump it into a tube. So now that those two teeth have had their little bleach bath and water rinse, I'm going to record what day on which I bleached the two of them. And they are now in this cross-linker. They're going to hang out in there and dry overnight until I can come back to the lab and start drilling for bone powder. And I'm really looking forward to that. I actually really do enjoy this whole process of bleaching the teeth and then drilling into them for the bone powder that I will then later use for DNA extractions. This is the sample of dental calculus that we were sent from an archaeological site over in Poland. I have talked a little bit about this before, but I have set it off to the side for now while I do some research on ancient DNA analysis using dental calculus. And there is some research out there. It's been found to be a good source of oral microbiome bacterial DNA, so that's super interesting. But what we're trying to figure out is how do we decontaminate these little shards of dental calculus before we actually start extracting DNA from them. Some of the articles have been a little vague, but we are working on that. We're going to talk to some people, hopefully, who are kind of experts in this sort of thing. Yep, but that is kind of off to the side while I work through all of the teeth in our little collection, getting those ready for DNA extractions up in the Ancient DNA lab. Yep, but I definitely have some more research to do here, and I am kind of looking forward to that, kind of solving this puzzle here.